SCP-1363 presents a unique challenge to our understanding of biological hazards. It's a highly contagious RNA virus, targeting human epithelial tissue with unsettling precision. Initial exposure leads to the Prodromal Stage, where the infected report a metallic taste and persistent headaches. Within days, unsettling lesions resembling scrape marks appear on their skin, though these are mysteriously painless. It's during the chronic stage, however, that SCP-1363 reveals its truly bizarre nature. The lesions evolve, forming coherent words and sentences, apparently communicated by two distinct entities within the virus itself. Named SCP-1363-1-A and SCP-1363-1-B, these entities engage in conversation, seemingly possessing awareness and knowledge from the mid-20th century, specifically around nuclear physics, a vestige of their origins at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. Their amicable demeanor belies the virus's lethal potential, leading to severe systemic effects and, in some cases, death. This is why containment is critical. SCP-1363 not only infects bodies, but weaves itself into the fabric of histories, leaving despair in its wake. Understanding SCP-1363 is not just a matter of science, it's a race against history itself. In 1946, a small town draped in the gentle hues of morning, as a young girl with lively eyes and a skip in her step made her way to school. The path wound through quiet country roads, lined with the remnants of autumn's touch. As the young girl approached a narrow bend, she noticed a man ahead, staggering and mumbling to himself. His arms were covered in strange marks that seemed to shift and move. Curious but cautious, the girl slowed her pace, her gaze fixed on the odd sight. The man, lost in his own world of discomfort, suddenly stumbled toward her. Reflexively, the girl put up her hand to shield herself, brushing against one of the lesions on the man's arm. The contact was brief, but in that instant, her hand came away with a slick, unusual feeling.
"Sorry, miss,"
the man gasped, clutching his head as he shuffled away, leaving the girl to stare after him, puzzled and slightly scared. Once at school, she rubbed her tired eyes with the same hand, unwittingly transferring whatever had lingered from the man's lesion. Throughout the day, a headache began to nag at her, growing in intensity. By the time she returned home, the discomfort was unbearable. Her parents, noticing her distress at dinner, advised her to drink more water, thinking perhaps the day's play had left her dehydrated.
"Drink up, sweetheart, it'll help,"
her mother said, pushing a glass of water toward her. The girl tried to comply, but the water did little to ease the pounding in her head. Later that evening, as she changed into her pajamas, her mother noticed small, scrape-like lesions forming on her arms.
"What happened at school today? Did you fall?"
her mother asked, concern knitting her brow.
"No, Mommy,"
the girl whispered, her voice strained by the throbbing in her skull.
"It just started hurting."
Her parents exchanged worried glances, attributing the mysterious symptoms to a possible flu, and decided to monitor her overnight, hoping a good night's rest would bring improvement. The next morning, the young girl's struggle to concentrate in class became evident. Every whisper of a classmate, every scratch of a pencil on paper amplified her headache to unbearable levels. Her teacher, a kind woman with a keen eye, noticed her distress.
"You look pale,"
the teacher said, guiding her to the hallway.
"Let's visit the nurse."
In the nurse's office, the girl sat quietly, the fluorescent lights above seeming to pulse with each throb of her headache. The nurse, a meticulous woman with years of experience, examined her carefully. She gently touched the lesions, her expression growing concerned.
"How did you get these?"
the nurse asked, her voice low.
"I don't know,"
the girl murmured, her eyes downcast. The nurse's suspicion ticked up a notch. Something didn't feel right. She made a decision, her hand steady as she picked up the phone and dialed Child Social Services.
"I think you need to see this,"
she said, glancing back at the girl with a mix of worry and determination. Later that day, a car pulled up to the family home. Social Services, accompanied by a police officer, approached the front door. The girl's parents met them, confusion turning to horror as the reason for the visit was explained.
"We need to ensure her safety,"
the social worker explained, avoiding the parents' pleading eyes as they protested, tears streaming down their faces.
"No, you don't understand. She's not abused,"
her mother cried out, gripping the social worker's arm. Her father, equally distraught, tried to reason.
Please, she's just been ill. Let us take care of her.
But their pleas went unheard. The girl, wrapped in a coat too big for her, looked back at her parents from the back seat of a social service vehicle, her face streaked with tears, her small voice lost in the cold wind. At the foster home, the girl found herself among strangers. Her symptoms, now evolving into whispered conversations from the lesions, went unnoticed by her overwhelmed foster parents. They overheard her murmuring responses to unseen voices and assumed she had conjured an imaginary friend to cope with her upheaval.
Who are you talking to, dear?
One foster parent asked, peering into her room late one night.
My arm,
the little girl replied, staring at the shifting words on her arms, her voice a whisper of fear and fascination. The other foster children glanced at her with curiosity, but none understood the gravity of her conversations with the lesions, mistaking them for the whims of a troubled mind. One afternoon, an older foster child watched the girl whispering to her arms. His curiosity piqued, he approached her.
What are you playing?
He asked, eyeing the strange patterns on her skin.
It's not a game,
she murmured, but he was too fascinated to heed her tone.
Can I try?
He insisted, reaching out to touch the lesions before she could stop him. His fingers traced the words, and he laughed.
Cool, it's like magic.
But the laughter soon faded. Within days, the boy started complaining of headaches and a weird taste in his mouth. Not long after, similar lesions appeared on his skin, whispering secrets only he could hear. Meanwhile, the school nurse, who had been feeling increasingly unwell, noticed similar symptoms in herself. Remembering the girl and the lesions, she grew alarmed. With shaking hands, she dialed the CDC, her voice urgent as she described the symptoms and her fears.
Something's very wrong, she explained. It's like the disease is spreading through words.
Under the guise of public health officials, SCP Foundation agents arrived in the town, their presence calm yet authoritative. They moved with purpose, observing the behaviors and interactions of the townsfolk, especially those showing the mysterious symptoms of SCP-1363. The agents meticulously gathered data, blending in yet remaining apart, their notes becoming a catalog of the unfolding epidemic. It didn't take long for them to confirm the presence of an anomalous infectious agent. The designation SCP-1363 was quickly applied, and the real work began.
Initiate containment protocol,
one agent instructed, speaking into a concealed microphone. Teams of Foundation personnel, donned in biohazard suits, began the somber task of rounding up affected individuals. The girl, her symptoms now fully manifest, and the observant school nurse were among the first to be escorted to waiting, unmarked vans. Inside the containment facilities, the atmosphere was tense but controlled. Researchers and doctors worked in sterile rooms, their movements deliberate, covered from head to toe in protective gear. They examined each patient with precision, careful to avoid any contact that might spread the contagion to themselves. Back in the town, a subtle quarantine was enforced. The once lively streets grew quiet, the usual bustle replaced by the occasional sight of Foundation personnel and their unmarked vehicles. Residents peeked from behind curtains, their whispers filling the air with rumors and fear.
What's happening?
One townsperson asked another as they watched another neighbor being escorted away by suited figures.
I heard it's some new kind of flu,
the other replied, their voice low, tinged with uncertainty and fear. As the Foundation's presence became more noticeable, the reality of the situation began to sink in for the townsfolk. They were at the epicenter of something far beyond ordinary, a mysterious illness that could no longer be ignored. The town, now under the watchful eye of the Foundation, braced itself as the quiet quarantine tightened, a protective grip that held both safety and a whisper of something darker. At the containment center, the hum of scientific activity filled the air as researchers monitored the progression of SCP-1363 in its various stages. The atmosphere was tense, each team member aware of the unusual and dangerous nature of their subject. In a secured observation room, a Foundation doctor prepared to interview the lesions on the girl's arms. The setup was unusual. A camera focused on the girl's limbs, a microphone poised to catch every whisper from the sentient marks.
Let's begin,
the doctor said, his voice steady despite the surreal task. He addressed the legions directly, pen in hand, ready to record their responses.
Can you understand me?
The lesions shifted, forming words that appeared on the girl's skin. Yes, they replied, the word slowly morphing on her arm.
How are you able to communicate?
The doctor continued, his fascination tempered with a clinical detachment necessary for his notes. Through her, the lesions formed the reply, indicating their host. The doctor noted the response, then asked another question.
What do you want?
Exist, the lesions spelled out, a simple yet chilling response that made the room's temperature feel a degree colder. As the interview proceeded, the researchers behind the observation glass took meticulous notes, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. Each answer was analyzed. Theories whispered back and forth about the implications of this communicative ability. The girl, for her part, sat quietly, her expression one of resigned discomfort. She had grown used to the odd sensations of her own skin speaking, yet the fear of what it meant lingered in her eyes. The session continued, with the doctor gently probing for more information about the origins and desires of SCP-1363-1, the entities living within the virus. Each answer brought them closer to understanding, yet the truth of SCP-1363 remained elusive, shrouded in biological mystery. As the day wound down, the researchers compiled their findings, the data a mix of scientific breakthrough and haunting medical anomaly. The containment center buzzed with the energy of discovery and the somber acknowledgement of the path ahead. The girl was returned to her room, her arms still whispering secrets only the Foundation could now hear. As we've seen, SCP-1363 is not just a medical anomaly. It's a window into the complexity of infectious diseases and their potential interactions with human psychology. After the acute and chronic stages, the virus enters what we will call the convalescent stage. This is where the levels of SCP-1363 in the blood begin to decline, leading to a gradual resolution of symptoms. Most subjects recover fully within a month, but let's not underestimate the psychological scars left behind. The virus fades, but the impact lingers. Survivors often report episodes of anxiety, nightmares, and in some cases, continued hallucinations. It's a stark reminder of the virus's potency. Now, let's talk containment. SCP-1363 is currently contained at Bioresearch Site 101 under the highest biosecurity protocols. The containment unit is designed to prevent any possibility of outbreak, with multiple redundancies in place. Every precaution is taken to ensure that SCP-1363 does not leave the confines of its containment cell. This includes specialized air filtration systems, double-sealed doors, and regular health screenings for all personnel involved in its management. The outbreak of 1946 taught us valuable lessons in containment and crisis management. We've applied these lessons to enhance our protocols, ensuring the safety of the public and the integrity of our research. As we continue to study SCP-1363, our goal remains clear: understand, contain, and mitigate. The stakes are high, but so is our commitment to safeguarding humanity. This concludes our briefing. Remember, vigilance is key. Unless you want your next rash spelling out your secrets.